Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as we finally get clarity on what's going on with the sale. Multiple people from The Athletic, Chris Wheeler, Ben Jacobs, they've all had their say and it's not necessarily good news. I think we were probably hoping for a big United are up for sale. That's not what we're getting. We'll delve into all three sources and where we're actually at. Also, talking about Chris Wheeler, very interesting interview with Beth this afternoon on the 2 o'clock show. I want to unpick some of that as well around Baleba and why that's not going to happen in January. Also around Amorim and whilst he may well not be getting 3 years, he may well not be getting 3 months. It feels like that Liverpool game is getting closer and reality is starting to bite. So lots to get into on the show tonight. We'll break it down. I mean, it's not totally off grid that we might remove the Glazers at some point. But I think that clarity I said we'd get on Monday morning is here. You've just got to search for it. And the reality is there is no talks to sell the club at the moment. Let's get into it. But before we get into that, we are sponsored by Manscaped on the show again. Brilliant partners of the United Stand. As you know, precision engineering for your family jewels. Manscaped's the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming, trusted by millions of men worldwide. If your grooming isn't just looking good, it's about feeling good. Whether you're gearing up for a date or just tackling the day. Get my words out. We're here to talk about the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra White Hot Edition. Now, I had the Gold Edition on Friday, which I think they named after me. But this one's an absolute game changer. White Hot looks, smooth results. The White Hot 5.0 brings the heat without cooking your skin. It's sleek, it's easy to use, and built precision where it counts. Whether you're tidying up for a trip, a date, or just want to feel a little bit more together this winter, this trimmer's got you covered. Yes, I'll be blunt, trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. It's for down there. And you, as United Stand viewers, can get 20% off the entire Manscaped range, whether it's down there, round there, up there, in there. The complete male grooming setup. 20% off with the code TUS20. So scan the QR code, go through the link in the description, use the code TUS20, you will get 20% off. That's 20% off when you use the code TUS20. And I'm pretty sure you get free worldwide shipping as well, because you always have done. So stay cool, stay smooth, and your balls and everyone else will thank you. Thank you very much to Manscaped. Okay. Links in the description for that, TUS20 for the 20% off. So let's hit where we're at in relation to these takeover talks, first of all. Now, we've been waiting for this to come out for quite a few days really now. And I think we do have the clarity. Some people will say, well, you know, I don't think it's clarity. I think you've got to read between the lines. You know, we've got Andy Mitten, Laurie Whitwell, Chris Wheeler, Ben Jacobs, all pretty much saying the same things. And I think that the first place to start is possibly, well, let's start with what Chris Wheeler, he said. If United have clarity on the Turkey Al-Sheikh tweet, they have no idea where this came from. They wouldn't necessarily have to know, because if the Glazers are holding talks with whoever and wherever, that's entirely their business. If United or the Glazers are in talks over selling the club and it's advanced, they would need to tell the New York Stock Exchange. That one was a clear giveaway that it can't be that close. Then you've got Laurie Whitwell basically saying this on Turkey Al-Sheikh's tweet. If he puts something out there like that, there's some reason to it, I would say. However, I've got no information to that degree, and United were taken back by the tweet. That being said, the nuance of this is there's a relationship with Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the Glazer family, and it's an unusual construct with them being the majority owners and Sir Jim running the club in all aspects. How long will that be the case? We can talk about drag-along rights, but the Glazers could be having talks about their own shares, and Ratcliffe wouldn't know that. I'm not saying that's happening. I don't have any information to that. I've asked Turkey Al-Sheikh. He didn't reply, but he did go public. Basically said, I'm not involved, but I've heard suggestions. It's interesting. Let's see what comes of it. Andy Mitten said, I don't have any evidence of the investment being true. I'm a little bit skeptical because I've seen people saying things that don't end up being true. Then they say, wow, I'm only saying what I've heard, when they realise there's a level of scrutiny to this to back it up. I would have thought that from Manchester United's perspective, they've got absolutely no idea, but the Glazers are hardly going to be ringing around journalists, are they? And then finally, this is what Ben Jacobs has said in the last hour or so. It's not Saudi. I'm getting denials from their sources, and that it's Qatar and that Sheikh Jassim may return. But there is a group specifically from the UAE that are interested and are exploring whether or not they can put together a consortium and have actually approached some ex-Man United players not to invest, but to be ambassadors. That's where we're at the moment. This group may be in advanced terms of internally putting itself together, but they haven't placed a bid, nor have they even alerted the Glazers yet. We'll have to wait and see how it develops. So I think that, you know, effectively that's the clarity I've been waiting for. And it might not be the clarity that you're waiting for, but it's certainly the clarity that I've been waiting for, because I think what we have there now is very much Man United are not aware and have not received any bid. Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos are not aware and have not received any bid. Where there is concession is that there could be something from the UAE and there could be something that the Glazers consider. But I think the best update I read was actually, and I think I did, if I'm correct, I think I did mark it down to bring into the show. Here it was. It was Laurie Whitwell who said it. The drag-along rights in this aspect are a facility for the Glazers to force Ratcliffe to sell his stake in the club. They've had an 18-month period of exclusivity where they couldn't do that, but now they can sell the club. The only thing at the moment is the share price up until February 2027 has to be $33 per share, which is what Sir Jim Ratcliffe bought his shares for, so he gets money back, basically. So the Glazers can sell the football club right now, but it has to be for $33 a share so that Sir Jim Ratcliffe gets his money back. Past February 27, the Glazers could sell the club for less than that, so there's no bar there. It's interesting when you speak to people about this in terms of what this means. Some says it's in the Glazers' interest to get a deal in place before February 27 because it gives competitive tension and gets them higher price for their shares. Also, after that point, why would anybody want to buy the club now? Because they have that automatic minimum $33 a share now, whereas after February 27, it would be cheaper. Maybe all the chatter is the Glazers trying to get some interest going before the deadline to get some sort of price. I think that, look, obviously there is nothing going on at the moment. Obviously there is no bid in at the moment. And obviously that's a little bit disappointing from where we were maybe last Thursday. But I also think that the club is on its arse. Now is the time to sell. I don't believe the Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Joel Glazer relationship really does work. And basically in February 2027, which is next season basically, those prices are going to be very, very cheap, potentially. And that puts Sir Jim in a bad situation. It also puts the Glazers in a bad situation. It would take a year to sell this club. If we started selling the club today, it wouldn't get sold till October 26, which is only 3-4 months away from February 27. So it's not, all is not lost. If there is an intention for the Glazers to go down the road of selling this football club, that February 27 deadline isn't far away. It feels like it's a long way away because it's October 25. But in the context of selling a football club, it takes a year at least. And in a year's time, we'll only be 3 months out from February 27. So it could be the start of something. We'll just have to wait and see. But I think the clarity I wanted and I think we needed is that, yeah, at the moment, there is nothing concrete. There is nothing moving. But that doesn't mean that it won't be. That doesn't mean that it can't do. And I think that's, you know, going to be very interesting to see how it pans out. Seth Rollins says, if sale off, why Man United share price keep going up, says Seth. And what if you trim it and it looks smaller, says LZ. I think he's talking about Manscaped, which I've already spoken about. We will let Glinios stay anyways. They are not leaving, says Doctor Strange. And the tag-along rights expiring in the 27 makes no difference. Asking price isn't going to drop less than $33, says Darren. Yeah, but look, I think ultimately it comes down to what many of us understand anyway. Are the Glazers in for the long run? Which I think they are, because the rebuild of the stadium makes them money. Or are they realistically looking at it and going, we're never going to get back, let's sell it and make a bit of profit now? Krishna says, I do not believe there is a midfielder in the world who can play next to Bruno in the midfield too and lead us to top 4 in the Premier League. If United's going to lose games, I'd rather lose with Casemiro, Agate, Mainu in the midfield, says Krishna. Well, on the midfield, I do want to talk about that next because I've got a lot to get through. It's a 7 o'clock show because I'm doing the England game. And I think that the really interesting thing, I read this today. I'll shout them out. It's United Forever 7 on X. They said, for years, we've watched our midfield battle, break and rebuild, searching for that perfect balance of energy, control and creativity. The heart of the team has always been where the real fight begins. Now with Ineos pushing a new era and Amorim shaking his system, the question becomes, who will carry that legacy forward? Who's the next warrior to own the centre of the pitch and dictate the rhythm like Scholes, Carrick or Keane once did? And it's been a long time trying to replace that. 4 names, Carlos Baleba, explosive, fearless and young. Adam Wharton, composed, visionary and Premier League ready. Morten Yulmland, experienced, tactical and a leader under pressure. Elliot Anderson, creative spark with raw potential waiting to explode. Every one of these 4 names brings something different. Power, balance or imagination. The choice we make next could shape our midfield and future for the next decade. Whatever happens, one thing's for sure. Manchester United's great era starts in the middle of the park. And I thought, you know what? I don't normally read out other posts from other people. But I thought, you know what? It's actually is quite inspiring and it actually is true. We sometimes get called the midfield stand. Or we should have bought a midfielder stand because I talk about it so much. But those sort of statements that I just read there vindicate that stance. I've always said that the midfield is the engine of any team and games are won and lost in the midfield. And we're very weak in the midfield. And I think the next signing we make in that area is pivotal. We did need a striker. We did need a goalkeeper. But the midfielder has to be right because if it's not, we're lost. And we're basically trying this season to get, survive with a midfield that we know is not good enough. Marlow FC says, did you see this tweet by Paul Gaskell? If Mainu was at Palace, Forest or Brighton, he'd probably be at the top of our list for midfield players to sign. It's so true. Yeah, it is. It is true. It's very, very true. And that's absolutely true. If Mainu was playing well for Brighton, we'd be saying bring him to Manchester United. I think it's very true. I don't really have anything to add. What I would add into that though is, and I don't know what you thought about this, Paul Scholes said this on his podcast. I think today the people who decide on recruitment at the club don't know what it takes to be a Manchester United player, and I include the manager in that. And I thought that was quite an interesting thing to bring into the show tonight because I do actually believe that. I do actually believe that. I think it's very, very true. I like Amorim. I want Amorim to do well, but I think it's impossible for Ruben Amorim to know what it takes to be a Manchester United player. I think he's still going to be learning that a year in. I mean, look, we still see the mistakes today. I mean, he thought Binder was a goalkeeper for Man United. He puts Delo at left wing back. He puts Bruno in the midfield. I don't think Amorim has learned yet what a Man United player is. I don't think our recruitment team has learned what a Man United player is. I mean, Jason Wilcox, Omar Barada, Favel, they've got no Man United blueprint in there. You know what a Man United player is. Paul Scholes knows what a Man United player is. I know what a Man United player is because that comes from experience. Like, you've got to know the club to know what a Man United player is. If you give me a name, I'll go yay or nay. And I'm not involved. I'm not recruiting. I'm not managing. I'm not doing any of that. But I do believe that. I do believe there is a certain type of mentality. And we were talking about this the morning show, weren't we? About Joe Bellingham and Baleba and Stiller and all these players. And it's like, I think there is such thing as a Man United player, probably more so. I think being a Man United player, some people think, oh, that only existed when we were good. I think it's more relevant now. I think when you've got to roll those sleeves up and go into the trenches, you need a Man United player more than ever. I mean, God, we're desperate for a Brian Robson or a Roy Keane right now. We're absolutely desperate for that type of a player. So we need it more than ever, and that comes down to recruitment. The problem is the football club, and I think this is what Paul Scholes is alluding to, the problem is the football club has lost so much of that experience. There's probably nobody in that football club, bar Darren Fletcher, that's got any indication of what it takes to be a Man United player. And I don't even think we're looking for that anymore. I think we're maybe saying, forget the past, let's build a new future. And that may be fair, but I think about Sir Alex Ferguson, who came down from Aberdeen and built a new future. He still understood what a Man United player was. I still think that should be a thing. Teasy says, in my opinion, we need to hope that this new group from the UAE can meet the Glazers' asking price for a full sale. Key reason fell through with Qatar, says Teasy. Look, I'm not saying Man United can't be sold. I'm just saying I think we have the clarity now from multiple decent sources that there is no bid, and the Glazers are certainly not giving anything away, and the club, certainly it's news to them. So there is no talks to sell at the moment. There is no bid at the moment. That's the clarity. There isn't one. I think what we have is a potential consortium from the UAE thinking about approaching Manchester United, and that's all we've got, and that's wafer thin. It could be a spark. You can't start a fire without a spark. It could be a spark, but at the moment it could be nothing, and it could blow out very, very quickly. I would describe this as a match that's been lit. And as we know with a match, it will burn down quite quickly and go out. It's whether it can catch fire. And that's where we are at the moment. And that match is not going to be enough. So let's wait and see. I mean, Chris Wheeler did say this afternoon the Glazers would demand in excess of $5 billion to sell up. The previous Qatari bid led by Sheikh Jassim would only go as high as $4.5 billion. But that isn't to say another Middle East consortium won't meet the asking price. The one Al Sheikh has alluded to is believed to be the UAE based. Look, I said this last night. I'm not going to bore everybody. I personally think if I had £30 billion, I'd buy Man United for 7, 6, 5.5. I'd buy them. I'd do it because I want to do it, because it's a massive club and it's on its arse, and I want to be the guy that takes it back. And I wouldn't be doing it to make money anyway, but I would make money because Man United would be worth a lot of money in a very short period of time because we're so shit and we're missing out on so much. We could get back very, very quickly with the right owners. I hope somebody looks at it like that. I really, really do. Just on, I did find these comments quite interesting from Chris Wheeler as well. I'll just bring them in at the moment. Just asking about Amorim and whether he has any favourites. Well, he's from Portugal, and I think his two favourites are Bruno and Dalot. I don't know about that. I mean, the media's perception of Manchester United and Ruben Amorim is somewhat different to mine, and it might be different to yours. I don't think Ruben Amorim is like Dalot and Bruno are my favourites, because if they are, his judgment on football is horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. You can't be a manager that goes, they're Portuguese, so they're my two favourite players. I mean, he ain't Gareth Southgate. So I think that he probably trusts and likes Dalot because they're Portuguese. They're both in his leadership team, and I wouldn't have Dalot in the leadership team. I don't know what he's done in his career to be a leader, but I wouldn't say they're his favourite players. They can't be his favourite players, can they? Really? Bruno maybe, but you've got to be putting in other players. I mean, De Ligt, Mazraoui, Mbeumo, Cunha, Mount. These are players that are actually delivering for him. They've been my favourite players, the Euros, etc., like that. As expected, Mark, says Dale, we never have happy stories. Thank you very much for your super chat there, pal. Appreciate it. Why so early? Because I'm doing an England game at 7:15. Issues are clear, says Mika. 2 or 3 new midfielders, move Bruno to 10 or sell him. Get real wing backs, build from there. Can't have players out of position. Oh, you know what? This did catch my eye because it sort of fits in with what you're sort of saying there. I don't know whether we've got it actually. I want to talk about Baleba as well. Yeah, it was actually Chris Wheeler who said it. I read it somewhere. For an organisation that he was talking about the summer transfer window, and he said for an organisation that's planning and has got a lot of brains in there now at Man United, it was surprising to see what they did. I mean, getting the 2 number 10s is so early was good business, but no one really seemed to foresee that by getting 2 number 10s, you then displace Bruno Fernandes, who's your captain and best player. So there just seemed to be been a little bit of blind thinking there. And I've never heard it like that before. I've heard a lot of you say, that we should have bought a midfielder before we bought 2 number 10s. But when you put it like that, I think it's even more compelling, isn't it? That in buying 2 midfielders, they're both very good, and I like Cunha and Mbeumo, but you then displace your best player and don't buy a midfielder. So yeah, it was a little bit weird, I suppose. Baleba. So on United getting a midfielder in January, remember Rob Dawson said on Friday, not likely. Chris Wheeler today, possibly. It's clearly the one position now they need something for. But they would always say, if it's a player we're going to get anyway, if we can bring that deal forward, then we'd look at it. So I don't necessarily see it being a short-term player like a Sabitzer. So Chris Wheeler basically saying that if Man United are going to move for a midfielder, it will be because a player that they want is available more early. But he did go on to say that I think next summer is more likely for the likes of for a midfielder in general, which obviously is not what we want to hear. He also went on to say that every chance Bruno goes next summer and Casemiro as well. With Mainu, who knows what happens there. But just talking about Baleba, I saw an update from Talk Shit where they were basically saying Brighton have got no plans to cash in on Baleba this side of next summer. Suggestions that the 21-year-old is unhappy at the club and is pushing for a transfer have also been played down. Oh yeah, I mean, whenever I watch Brighton at the moment, I'm just getting the vibes that Baleba's never been more happy. That he's ultra settled and he's got no thoughts of a move to Manchester United at all. I mean, come on, Brighton might want to dig their feet in and not sell him in the summer, but I mean, Baleba is giving off so many hints that he wants to play for Man United that I think, there's a very big chance this weekend he might turn up in a Man United kit for Brighton. So I definitely think that I wouldn't say that Baleba's happy at Brighton. I mean, come on, his performances have been not the best. But, what can you expect? Watching from South Africa, says Tabiso, we are going to the World Cup for the first time since we hosted in 2010. Get in. Just needed to get that off my chest. I'm not massively interested in international football. I don't even know why I'm watching England tonight, apart from I can have a glass of wine and just ask questions that aren't football related and answer them. But so I'm not up to date with it. But I know someone said last night about Cape Verde, and well done to South Africa as well, because I wasn't aware that you had made it to the World Cup too. Rajaf says, completely hypothetical, but how can United finish with, how high can United finish with a midfield 2 of Pedri and De Jong? Also, which 2 out of Baleba, Wharton, Elliot Anderson do you want? I think Wharton and Anderson would work, but I actually do think Baleba would be better balanced with a Wharton and Anderson. I quite like Anderson and Baleba, if I could take the 2. I like all 3 of them, but I think I'd go Anderson and Baleba. I think there's a little bit of a risk there with Baleba, as I've said, but I really liked him last season, and Anderson is the more busy player defensively. So I think Anderson and Baleba would be great. We won't get to. We won't get to. There's very little chance of that, in my opinion. But that would be my choice, yeah. Definitely. Do you think we can get Baleba in January? Look, anything is possible when it comes to Manchester United, but I would say that I think it's difficult. I just don't trust United to ever do something in the January transfer window, if I'm being completely honest, because we've seen it, haven't we? What did you think about what Wheeler said about Amorim? Well, the only thing I know that he said about Amorim was that the players have doubts about the system, but not so much about him. I think they want to win things and they want things to work out. If there's a Man United player that's got a problem with the system, they're an idiot, basically. The system argument is a moronic argument. It's stupid. So if the players have a problem with the system, they're idiots. How can you have a problem with the system but not a problem with the manager as well? Like, are you thick? Like, this manager plays 3-4-3. If you don't like the system, how can you like the manager? And it's the same with the fans. If you don't like the system, say Amorim out. Because this is what his system is. His whole career. This is what he plays. I'm bored of the system argument. If you don't like the system, just say Amorim out. Because he ain't changing the system. So it's just really boring to hear people talk about the bloody system all the time. And if we've got players that think a manager that doesn't play a 4-3-3 is going to play a 4-3-3, I would say to those players, what system did Ten Hag play when you sacked him 12 months ago? It's just a waste of time talking about that. But what I did agree with, and I forget the exact wording, but I do agree with it, is I don't think for 1 minute Ruben Amorim is getting 3 years at United. I think that was by design to alleviate pressure on Ruben Amorim, and to a certain extent, maybe it has. But I need to ask you a lot of questions in a minute. I don't know what this is all about, but interesting. But yeah, look, we are all, I feel like I'm making a statement. We are all entitled to our opinions, and we must hold on to them. But we must also have the ears to listen and take on board other things, for that is how we learn. We take what we need and we discard what we don't. And I think we are all entitled to opinions. And if you believe that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to give Ruben Amorim 3 years, then you must believe that. But I call bollocks. I do. I think it's total bollocks. Because I believe in what I believe. And I said at the start of this season, I think it's going to be a roller coaster. And the thing about a roller coaster is, as it goes up and down, you know, you might fall out. And that's a horrible thought, but at any point, Amorim might not be on that roller coaster at the end of it. There's going to be a lot of loop-de-loops. There's going to be a lot of up and downs, and he might not make it. So I don't think any owner of any football club can say about any manager they'll be here in 3 years' time. You can't say it about Pep Guardiola, you can't say it about Arne Slot, and you can't say it about Mikel Arteta. So you definitely can't say it about Ruben Amorim. There is no 3 years. There is, you can probably say end of the season. I do believe you can do that, but I don't think you can say 3 years. It'd be great if he was here in 3 years, because the only way he will be here in 3 years is if he survives. He's not going to be here in 3 years with a 25% win ratio, is he? So, look, if he's here in 3 years, something's right. That's great. I think he has to stay till the end of the season, because Sir Jim Ratcliffe looks like an absolute prat if he doesn't keep him. But, you know, when we talk about 3 years, I look at the game on Sunday and I go, if we lose on Sunday, even if we lose 1-0, there'll still be people going, Amorim's fucking clueless. So, I mean, what if we get beat 3-0 or worse? So we're only days away from another game that will dictate the mood of this fan base. It's so easy to talk positively when there's no accountability, because it's fantasy football. But the minute real games kick in, that's when real emotions kick in. And if we lose to Liverpool, I think the mood will drop. And if we don't lose to Liverpool, I think the optimism will rise. And then you go to Brighton. And if we've lost to Liverpool, but we beat Brighton, it'll flip again. We are on a roller coaster. Some people call it flip-flop. I want to call it a roller coaster because I hate the word flip-flop. But it's going to go up and down and up and down. And when we lose to Spurs, if we lose to Spurs before the next international break, people will look at what happened against Forest, Brighton and Liverpool. And some people might go, sack him now. Some people might go, you know, he ain't got long left. So I think it's going to play out like that. As I say, I do think he'll get the season. I hope he's here in 3 years. But I've never heard such nonsense in all my life that you can sit there when you're 10th in the league, having just finished 15th, and say, we're going to give this manager 3 years. So Jim Ratcliffe's not bloody Superman, and he hasn't got that power. So we will have to wait and see. What I think he did, and I genuinely think this is what he did, because he's not a stupid man, I think he did it to try and alleviate the pressure off the manager. I don't believe he needed to do it, but I think that's what he was trying to do, definitely. Sorry, I've got a bit of a problem with my live chat today, so bear with me, bear with me. Still doing it. Very annoying. Have to watch Bloody Island tonight. Send prayers, says Evan. Well, hopefully, if you've got a chance of getting through, hopefully you do. I'd love to see that. Love to. Next 3 games are huge, says Aaron G. Could be a disaster, could be a miracle. That's just where we are with it. I think if I was giving you a prediction on what I think will happen in the next few games, I'll say 2 wins and 2 losses. That's just typical Man United. It's so difficult. I think with United, there's always... It's like a plate of negativity and a plate of positivity. You can always find the item to eat which satisfies your hunger. So if you're a negative person and you want change, you'll find reason for it. And if you're a positive person, I think you'll find reason for it as well. That's my prediction. And that might be the prediction of the season. I don't know that balance of Amorim in, Amorim out, good results, bad results, you know, the owners are improving or making us worse. I don't know whether we're going to get definitive answer of that this season. I genuinely think it's just going to be like that all season. I'd love to go and win 5 games in a row so that guy can get his hair cut. I'd love to go and win 5 games in a row so we can challenge for top 4. But realistically, the problems are still there at the football club. The same problems that have always been there are still there. A lot of the same players are. Brentford happened this... If Brentford hadn't happened this season, I might be a little bit more positive. But Brentford happened this season. And because Brentford happened this season, I know it can happen again. So I think, you know, we're going to get that up and down. But my prediction is for the next 4 games, we'll be sat in the next international break pretty much as we've been sat in this one, hoping there's going to be a sale. And I hope that is what we're talking about in the next international break. I hope over the next few weeks we see development around the sale talk rather than that being closed off and Amorim out talks. I'd much rather be talking about that, certainly. Fenke says next 4 games are important for Amorim. Well, I mean, definitely they are. I mean, I probably can get it up on the screen for you. So that's the bottom 10 at the moment. So you can see Newcastle on 9 points. 4th from bottom are on 5 points. We're playing them very, very soon. So 4th from bottom is 5 points, and Newcastle have got 9 in 11th. And then we are in the top of the table. You know, let's just focus on that for a moment. We're 5 points off 4th from bottom, and we're 5 points off 2nd. I mean, you couldn't be in a more scaled situation, because 4th from bottom is the edge of relegation and 2nd place is the edge of top, and we're 5 points off both. So nobody can sit here and say we're in a good position, but nobody can sit here and say that if things start to go well, we're in pouncing difference of where we want to be, and if things start to go bad, we're in danger of dropping down. But this is, you know, it's a great conversation, but it's one that nobody can answer at the moment. Nobody can definitively say we're going to get in the Champions League, and nobody can definitively say Amorim's going to get the sack. I think we're perfectly in the middle, as Nkosi says, and yeah, it will be very, very, very interesting. Linda says we've won more games in the last 5 games than anyone else. 3 games. Okay. Yeah, but Chelsea had 10 men and we played Burnley and Sunderland, who just got newly promoted. So, yeah, that would be very, very interesting. I believe that there's a couple of people have said you can't sit on the fence. I don't like sitting on the fence. I haven't sat on the fence. I think we'll win 2 and lose 2. And I think we'll be, I think in the next international break, we'll be 5 points off 2nd and we'll be 5 points off the bottom 4 again. Probably impossible for that to happen. But I think we'll be somewhere between 5th and 10th all season. That's where I think we'll be. And 10th is, Dr. Lucia is right. 10th place itself is literally sitting on the fence. The club is sitting on the fence. You know, when your scales are like balanced, that's where Man United are. I can't sway either way because, you know, and look, Liverpool away is one of the hardest games of the season. And that's what I mean when I say to Linda, you know, we've just played Chelsea with 10 men and Burnley and Sunderland at home who got newly promoted. that you'd expect to win those games. Liverpool away is one of the hardest games. So if we lose to Liverpool, I would say, well, let's calm down a minute, because we've beaten Sunderland and Burnley at home, which we'd expect to do, and we've lost to Liverpool away, which we'd expect to do. Are these the sort of games that define your season? No. No, the games that define your season are Brentford away, Brighton at home, Palace away, Forest away, Villa at home, Newcastle at home. They're the games that hurt you, because they're the games where you really, you know, they're the balance games for me. Not against the top four and not against the bottom four. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Should I put 100k on United to win? What, against Liverpool, the Saints? I'll call you the stupid if you do. Godav says, Man Utd to Napoli. We get someone in on loan. Amorim's out by February. Man United gets relegated. Everybody leaves. We can finally have calm weekends. God. Okay. B says, loving the content during the international break, Mark. My Baleba concern, what he did to Brighton, he might do to Man United for his next move. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that, V. Some people get quite excited when a player goes on strike. Take Gyökeres, for example, right? If Gyökeres, and this is a big if, and also he's probably the wrong age, but what about Isak at Liverpool, right? Isak's a better example. Goes on strike to get a move to Liverpool. Scores a load of goals for Liverpool. 2 years' time, Real Madrid say, we want you, and he goes, well, I want you as well. Is it beyond the realms of possibility that he doesn't do it to Liverpool? And I know that's got nothing to do with us, and it's unfair on Isak, but God, this pitch that England are playing on, it's got a bloody big hedge on it, around it. It's going to be an interesting watch-along. Sorry, Mark, love the channel, but all the news is bad. Not your fault, but going to have to leave for a bit. It's not bad, Andy. You're just being melodramatic. We've just had a conversation about how the season's in the balance, and it could go one way or the other. So, you know, I don't really know what you're talking about, Andy, but if you need to go, you need to go. I need to go as well. On the sale news, I'm sure it was to manipulate the price. Good think it didn't really work, says Sunrise. And when you trim the grass and cut the hose, by mistake. Yeah, we're not doing that. But if you want to get Manscaped delivered to your door, remember it's 20% off with the code TUS20. You can scan the QR code or go through the link in the description. The players are actually coming out onto the pitch, so that's worrying me because I thought I had 5 minutes. I will be over on That's Football. We did England against Wales the other night, and we didn't really watch a lot of the game. It was just loads and loads of Q&A having a laugh. So get yourself over there, and that laugh will continue. Thanks, everybody, for watching tonight. I will speak to you tomorrow morning at 10, and thank you very much. I'll speak to you in a bit.